So I'm pretty sure that everybody remembers this article about adult graphic novel sales going up and how they were trying to say that Western comics are doing better, but mostly manga was on there like My Hero Academia in sales, right? Well, Crunchyroll came out with their own list and it really puts a lot of things into perspective. That manga is destroying Western comics. Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have it better tomorrow. So, everybody, I'm sure, like I said, remembers this article. Because what the Western comic book industry tries to do, like what they try to say is that, oh, well, the comics over in the West, they're doing great. The sales are going up. Now, while this article here, adult graphic novel sales figures reveal nearly 30% sales jump in 2020, 16.2 million adult graphic novels were sold in 2020. Yeah, that's a lot, which it is a lot. But what they try to hide is that manga is what's selling the most. It's what's destroying Western comics like DC and Marvel. And when you look further into this, like this, for example, Japanese book sales generated $15.59 billion in 2020, showing who's really gaining the sales. Because, as we've been seeing, manga has been completely obliterating DC and Marvel because nobody wants to buy woke comics. And Crunchyroll had their own article come out just recently, a couple days ago, talking about My Hero Academia dominates the US graphic novel charts for 2020. And really puts a lot of things into perspective. It really makes you look at a lot of this. And they go into this even further. Instead of it being top 10, it's a top 20 list. So take a look at this article. Last week we posted about My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, and the work of Junji Ito making the New York Times top 10 for January. These titles and a few more also managed to top the larger 2020 list according to the recent charts based on NPO BookScan data, which tell a tale dominated by Koei Horikoshi series from January 5th, 2020 to January 2nd, 2021. My Hero Academia ended up taking over half of the top 20 for 2020 with assorted volumes ranking from the first in the series all the way up to volume 25. Other series beyond these mentioned above on the list include Haikyuu, Toilet Bound, Hanako-kun, Tokyo Ghoul, and The Promised Neverland. And as usual, Junji Ito is in the mix with his hardcover omnibus edition of Uzumaki. And I mean, you look at the list, you see a lot of manga here. Well, then you take a look at just everything in general, which would be a mix between manga and Western comics. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the only things that stand out here that make this a mixed list would be Strange Planet hardcover, Strange Planet hardcover again, March Book 1, Snug, a collection of comics about dating your best friend hardcover, and Watchmen 2019 edition. I mean, when you look at it, it goes to show what is mostly on this list of top 20. Top 20. This is not just top 10, top 20. It's manga. Because nobody wants to buy woke comics, And DC and Marvel, well, they have just completely fallen from what they used to be. They're not like they used to be in the 80s and the 90s, where they actually used to make good comics. All these hacks that call themselves comic book pros that work in the industry now, right? Well, all they do every day is they sit there, they eat their cat food, and they get on Twitter, and they think that attacking the fans is the best way to sell their comics, and continue to push their political agendas into comics, which nobody wants. Nobody likes that. And, people are jumping to manga because it's fun. It's escapism. It's what people want to see. Fun, interesting stories, great action, good characters. As to where Marvel and DC, all they're doing now is just destroying and ruining characters that people know and loved at one time, which, because of this, they can't stand it. As well as just making propaganda of their stories. And, as I said, nobody wants that. And, as you can see here, I mean, look at it. When you have manga dominating, when you have them just completely obliterating Western comics, it's really telling. It really tells you how far down the comic book industry in the West, like with DC and Marvel, has fallen. And it's always funny because, when you look at this, and you look at this list, and you look at how they try to defend Western comics, trying to say, oh, yeah, the comics in the West, they're growing, when it's actually Japanese manga that is growing. You see, people still want comics, but they don't want trash like what Marvel and DC produces in the modern day. That's not what they want. This is why they're going to manga. This is why, when you look at this article, Japanese book sales generated 15.59 billion in 2020. Because you look at it, people still want good comics, and they're going to go and they're going to give their money to where they're going to get good comics from. And which now that is manga, and which is why manga is making all the money. Because people enjoy it. People like it. People don't want to sit down and read, for example, like Captain Marvel, which has been canceled like, 9, 10 times, and they tried to bring it back, but it always failed. Nobody cares about Carl Manvers and the new powers that you're trying to give Carl Manvers to be a good character, because it's a trash character. Carl Manvers is a trash character. And, that's why you look at My Hero Academia, for example, which, when you look at the quirks, right, that the characters have, you could say that's like, the equivalent to X-Men, and how X-Men are mutants, right? And they have their own individual powers as well. It's unique to some of them, right? Kind of funny that Hero Academia is doing so much better that it just puts Marvel, for example, to shame. It puts Marvel to shame. Because they don't care about making good comics anymore. All Marvel cares about is just throwing out the propaganda. And it's absolutely frustrating. Hence why people are now jumping to manga, because manga is what they want. It's the escapism that they've been looking for, the fun and brilliant entertainment that people have always loved and enjoyed. That's what they're going to now. So take a look at this article. Print and digital book sales combined generated $15.59 billion in Japan last year. This was an overall increase of 5% from figures published in 2019. This is the second year in a row that sales have exceeded those of the previous year. Digital publishing grew significantly, up 28%. It accounted for $3.79 billion, 24% of the total publishing market, exceeding 20% of the first-time digital manga performed particularly well, increasing 32% to $3.29 billion. Like I said, you make good books, people are going to come to them, and they're going to buy them. You make trash books, like DC and Marvel have been doing for years, then you're not going to go to it, because who wants that? Also, mangaka don't attack their fans. They don't go after their fans, as to where DC and Marvel, what have they been doing to comic book fans for years? Attacking us all the time, which people are tired of as well. This is why you should have respect for your fans, because if it wasn't for your fans, you wouldn't be where you are. You get what I mean? That's why mangaka appreciate their fans, as to where, pros at DC and Marvel, they attack their fans because they don't care. They don't have respect for them. And you can clearly see that. Print sales, which include hardcovers, paperbacks, comics, and manga books, saw a 1% decline in sales. This is the 16th consecutive year that print has been on a downward spiral. Although every year there is a slight dip, the format still makes the most money, over $11 billion in 2020. Obviously, print still reigns supreme in Japan, primarily driven by manga sales. Sales of study reference books and children's books increased due to the simultaneous closure of schools that began in March 2008. On the other hand, both weekly magazines and monthly magazines struggled with a 9% decrease. What I find interesting is that Japan has a much smaller population than the US, and manga sales absolutely destroy comic sales in 2020. It is estimated that print and digital comics and graphic novels generated just over $1 billion in 2020. See, this is my point. It goes to show that manga is destroying Western comic book sales. I mean, it's destroying, more like North American, like DC and Marvel, but it's destroying them. And when you have articles like these that try to mask what's actually going on, where they try to say that, comics are doing great, when in reality, manga is actually dominating and just completely obliterating, DC and Marvel, for example. Like, when you take a deeper dive into it and you look into it, you really see who's making the sales and who actually isn't making the sales. But anyways, let me know what you think about this entire situation down below. Subscribe to the channel if you were new here, and make sure you were still subscribed, because YouTube is unsubscribing people from all their favorite channels. So make sure you were still subscribed to all your favorite channels. Hit the video with a like, and also be sure to share the video on social media. Spread the word and get it out there. It's greatly appreciated, and it really helps out the channel a lot. Also be sure to follow me on Discord. We have a wonderful community there. Not only that, but it will keep you up to date on when the newest videos will be released, as well as any other upcoming events in the near future. So be sure to follow me on Discord. The link is in the description down below. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you. And have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.